with you right here on the India Development Debate on ET Now. I'm Supriya, Shrinate, and straight on to what really is a moment of shame for the world's largest democracy. The budget session 2018 will go down as the least productive of what Parliament saw in the last 18 years. The second leg of the session was adjourned sine today after 23 days of continued disruption with near zero productivity as far as lawmaking is concerned. The Lok Sabha spent just 30 minutes on clearing bills, while non-legislative debates took up more than 11 hours. In fact, this budget session will go down as the worst under the Modi government in terms of productivity, and the blame game continues. The BJP accuses the opposition parties for all the mess, even as they turn back and accuse the treasury benches for making no earnest attempt to run the house. Former BJP leader and now, of course, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu, who is the chairman of Rajya Sabha, has warned the protesting MPs that they are testing the country's patience and murdering democracy. He did request parliamentarians to get back and not act like a cog in the wheel as far as economic ingrowth is concerned, but all in vain. The blame game apart, the crucial legislation that has been pending and who is to be blamed from all of that, this is exactly what we are discussing and debating right here on the India Development Debate, the Parliament washout, and that being a spanner as far as the India story is concerned. It is my pleasure and absolute delight to welcome two freshly minted MPs in Rajya Sabha, GVL Narasimha Rao from the BJP, he's also national spokesperson there, and of course Congress MP Amiben Yagnik, MP Rajya Sabha, national spokesperson of the Congress. So congratulations to first two of my guests for being members of the Elder House and for being members of the Wise House, as they say. I also welcome Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the SP, Sanjeev Srivastava, political commentator, and Anand Ranganathan, author, scientist, consulting editor, Swarajya. So thanks each one of you for being with us, and I think it's only fair that I begin with the BJP and the Congress. The congratulations and the pleasantries set aside, GVL Narasimha Rao and Amiben, I do hope over the next 1 hour we will be able to have a constructive debate. We don't want this to become a blame game. We want to put solutions to the table. GVL, let me begin with you. The Parliament session is a washout, complete washout. Every statistic that you look at will tell you that this is the worst session that the Parliament has seen, the most unproductive work, hardly any sittings, very few questions answered. Does all of this washout really undermine Parliament as a seat of legislation? Parliament was supposed to be the supreme authority. It was supposed to hold the government of the day accountable. What have MPs and what have our legislators now reduced Parliament to?
Supriya, thank you for your wishes and greetings. The first 3 days, I think after we were sworn in as members, after we took oath on the 3rd of April, certainly I think it has not been a very happy experience in all the 3 days. The Rajya Sabha was adjourned repeatedly. Yesterday there were several times it had to be adjourned because there were unruly scenes. Both the chairman and the deputy chairman, they tried their best to really get the members to really transact business. He wanted the bills that were presented in the House to be voted upon because some members of the opposition wanted a division. But despite the repeated urging from the chair, I think the members really remained defiant. I think certainly it does not speak well of our democracy. Most of them have actually rushed to the well to disturb proceedings. The speech by the Honorable Chairperson in the Rajya Sabha this morning, his concluding remarks rather, actually really showcased, held a mirror to the kind of disruptions that happened over the past few weeks in this session of Parliament. Previous sessions have been certainly very fruitful. A lot of historic bills have been passed by the same Lok Sabha and also over the last 4 years in this Rajya Sabha. But certainly as the elections are approaching closer, 2019 is coming closer, and the series of political successes that the BJP has actually mustered over the last several elections, I think there is a lot of fear in the minds, insecurity in the minds of the opposition parties, which actually want to leverage their parliamentary strength to actually prevent any kind of further legislation, to prevent progress. So people of the country are actually looking at the behavior of political parties in Parliament, and I am sure they are disappointed at the manner in which the opposition parties have conducted themselves. Our party is going to protest all our MPs will protest on April 12th against this undemocratic and negative approach of the opposition in blocking parliament.
Right. Right. GVL, I have an entire segment where I want to discuss your fast and the fast of the Congress. But let me take it across to Ms. Amiben. And Ms. Amiben, you know, the BJP says that you have been disruptive. You will, of course, turn around and say it was Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, when he was the leader of the opposition, said disruption is a form of dissent and protest in a parliamentary democracy. How long will we continue to use the same argument? Because at the heart of this debate is the productivity in the House. At the heart of the debate is legislation. At the heart of the debate is lawmaking, and that's not happening. Can we continue to say, because BJP behaved like this in the opposition, this is payback time and this is how we will behave? I mean, how long will this payback and this musical chair between the opposition now and, you know, the treasury benches then continue?
First of all, thank you so much for your wishes. I'm glad to be answering your question today, having been present in the Rajya Sabha session and witnessing what you have seen. It has been a great learning, but I think we are not talking of a blame game here. The BJP, first of all, should look at its behavior for the last decade. And if you just look at one session of 2010, excuse me, you will have to excuse me.
Sure. Sure. But I will go across to Ghanshyam Tiwari, who's also joining us from Lucknow. And Ghanshyam, you know, you have the principal opposition, the Congress, saying that this is exactly what the BJP does. This is deja vu 2010. There is no denying that. In 2010, the parliament had worked exactly like this. There was nothing that was happening in the House. There was complete obstruction after the 2G report had come, and there was this joint parliamentary committee probe that the opposition insisted on. There was a complete washout of the winter session, and only when the government relented on a JPC in the budget session did we see some amount of proceeding go through. But the reality is that, you know, this can't be a case of musical chairs in India's parliamentary democracy. Or will we keep seeing the opposition, of which you are a part, blame the BJP of how they behaved, quote Arun Jaitley as leader of opposition, go back and say this is how we are going to dissent? Because this also raises questions on the grammar of anarchy. Is grammar of anarchy going to define our parliamentary functioning?
Well, the significance of the present time is so much that for a moment we can pause and not look at the history. What is the significance of the present time? This is the first time that I have seen, at least in independent India, that an elected government which has such thumping majority has used Tigram politics to ensure that parliament does not function. On 25th February, topmost leaders of AIDMK were telling in Tamil Nadu that Narendra Modi ji is their political guru. If AIDMK considers Narendra Modi ji as their political guru, why is AIDMK in the well of the house, stalling the house? Second, YSRCP today, 5 of their members of parliament resigned from the parliament. They were in the well of the house, and by the way, YSRCP wants to align with BJP. So when allies, unofficial allies of BJP are in the well of the house to make sure that the parliament does not function, and then BJP blames opposition, this is fake opposition. The important issues of the people were not addressed in this parliament. And now when you look at history in this context, the first thing I look at is last year. Last year, there were 52 Sundays, but the parliament did not even function for 52 days because BJP wanted to win Gujarat. A party that can suspend parliament because of an election in one state will go to any extent to score some political mileage. Now look at the track record of BJP from 2010 to 2018. It has always looked at using parliament as a way of political mileage rather than as an institution that the constitution aspires to enable important debates for the country. If the parliament would have debated SC/ST Act changes, then the nation would not have faced the kind of rioting and vandalism that happened. The parliament was not interested in debating. Parliament missed out on opportunities of debating on NPAs, on Nirav Modi, on data leak, on FCR. By the way, BJP did get its primary agenda passed. It did get a chance to ensure that amid all the chaos in the parliament, a finance bill could be passed without debate that has 21 amendments, including the one that allows foreign companies to invest in political parties. Why should that be allowed? I have not heard a single answer from any BJP spokesperson on why did they allow their foreign funding in political parties without scrutiny, because they do not want transparency in politics.
Okay. You know, Ghanshyam, I will come back to you, and I think I think GVL Narasimha Rao will answer that question, but Ms. Ammiben Yagnik is back with us, and take care of that throat, ma'am. But I want to ask you the question that I asked Ghanshyam Tiwari, and while, you know, he is perhaps right in saying that this is deja vu, but as a responsible opposition, is that what you want to do? Is disruption the only way that the Congress party wants to go ahead? Or have you realized it doesn't really matter whether parliament functions or not? Because the reality in democracy is that things like SC/ST Act amendment, the dilution perhaps, or Nirav Modi, or the banking scam, these issues need to be discussed on the floor of the House. India deserves to know what our legislators are doing, which we don't get to know now, because constructive work, constructive criticism, constructive debates are no longer happening in the House.
I heard your question. I think coming back to what I was saying earlier, that the BJP has now become a party which thinks that it has got a mandate of the people, an exclusive mandate, and so it can act brazenly. And that is why I think it is not responding to any debates, any request for debates, discussions in parliament. Parliamentary democracy is meant for discussions, debates. That is how they are elected. They have come to the parliament. The parliamentarians need to discuss on every legislation that comes in the parliament. But the BJP, I think, has taken a very brazen and rigid attitude, not giving a chance to debate or dialogue or have any kind of discussions on any bill. You see that they have taken a brazen kind of an attitude of blaming Sonia ji, that the Congress is doing that, instead of taking into the consideration that AIDMK was the first party to rush to the well. It has asked for several things, and they have not bothered to answer the AIDMK, but I have put it on the Congress party. The Congress party has been very patient and only asked for discussions and debate on the laws or on the bills that are passed. But I think the BJP has taken a stand which is absolutely unheard of, and even if you look at the legislative, the parliamentary history, this has not happened. It is a record that in the past 10 years, the BJP has practically disrupted parliament, and the worst session was in 2010 when it has disrupted 94% of the time of the Lok Sabha and 98% of the time of the Rajya Sabha. And on what? And Mr. Jaitley and Sushma Swaraj wanted a JPC on 2G, and that is why they remained so rigid that they did not allow the parliament to function. Earlier also, in the first 8 sessions of the UPA, the NDA did not allow the UPA to function in those 8 sessions, and out of 378 bills, only 178 bills were passed. At that time, they did not think of any of these things. I think the BJP is a party that does not understand the meaning of a parliamentary democracy. It has not learnt, in fact, to see that there is a consensus building, there is a discussion, there is a debate, and I think they are just following a method or something that is set for their own selves. And if you see the BJP, from the time they have come to power, there seems to be an election mode. When there's an election in any state, that is the priority. They do not even think the sanctity of the parliament is important. They do not give importance to the parliament, nor importance to a constructive opposition, nor to a constructive democracy.
Ms. Yagnik, I get your point. Okay.
That is where the BJP has become very high-handed.
Right. Okay, Ms. Yagnik, I get your point and I get your angst there, but I started off this debate by saying I don't want this to be a duel between the Congress and the BJP. I know GVL Narasimha Rao wants to come there, but GVL, just bear with me, because I do want to get experts on the show as well into this discussion and in this debate, because this is going to be a never-ending blame game between you and the BJP. I will just come to you in a bit. Anand Ranganathan, coming to you, and I'm going to ask a little bit of an unpopular and perhaps an uncomfortable question. Do politicians on both sides of the political spectrum perhaps realize it's caste calculus, it is coalitions, it is going to be, you know, those kind of political strategies that will eventually ensure that there is, that will perhaps ensure them victory in elections? And that overrides political discussions, political programs. Look at party manifestos today. They are a mere formality. They are no longer the blueprint of policy because, you know, people realize it's going to be the caste calculus and all of that that's important, and which is why nobody is paying attention to what is happening in the House. And perhaps that is why we are seeing a slow decay of democratic ethics within the House. Anand Ranganathan, will you agree with me?
Yes, I do, Supriya. First of all, thanks very much for having me. And I'll just say over the last 10 minutes, I mean, if, you know, if the parliamentary debates were to be conducted like they are being conducted right now by you, I think you should be appointed the Speaker of Lok Sabha. But, you know, this is a very serious issue. And let me just say this. It's a very awkward situation for people like us, because we could be having this debate till the cows came home. And the reason for that is that on this very panel that you have spokesperson, at the risk of upsetting them, if you hope they don't mind, we have spokespersons of parties where on the floor of the House, some have brought grenades, some have punched people, some have thrown mics, they have done all sorts of things. And then we have something, same people get up and say, oh, this is very unparliamentary. But the point is, if we keep on having this debate without providing a solution, which of course I have a solution at the risk of being rewarded with a privilege motion, but nonetheless I am going to tell that solution. But before that, let me just say you are absolutely right. What is happening right now is that a sinister game is being played. I mean, what we saw today was absolutely appalling, but what we saw 10 days ago, please don't forget, was the second most appalling thing I have seen on the floor of the House in perhaps the history of India's parliamentary debates, which was when the MEA, Ms. Sushma Swaraj, got up to talk about the tragic murder of 39 Indians in Syria in the Lok Sabha. She was interrupted. She was not allowed to speak. And I say this is the second because to me the first was the cash for vote scam that happened about 10 years ago, which was brushed over by Michelangelo. You know the whole story. But to come back to this, and why I agree with you this is a game, is that in this guise of interruptions and adjournment, critical issues that need to be debated, that would put all parties in the dock, are simply overlooked. I'll just give you one example, which is the finance bill that was passed. Now, there is this High Court has convicted the BJP and the Congress for taking money for the last 30-40 years and not disclosing in the FCRA regulations. And the High Court gave 6 months to the central government, not the BJP or the Congress, to the central government to find out a solution so that the conviction can be upheld. And what did the finance minister do in the finance bill? They simply went back to the year, to the day when the FCRA bill was enacted in 1976 during the emergency, and they removed this clause. So now they are immune. The High Court is helpless. Everyone is helpless. So, but the point is, as you rightly put it, the BJP will criticize the Congress for disruptions because that's what the Congress and allies are doing now, and the Congress will criticize the BJP for disruption because that is what the BJP was doing. In fact, Mr. Jaitley actually said this is a legitimate form of protest. So what's the solution? At the risk again, as I repeat, of being rewarded with a privilege motion. You see, many BJP MPs and MLAs, as they said, that we are willing to forsake our salary, okay, for the days that we were attended. That's pittance.
No, Anand, hold on for a minute. Anand Ranganathan.
I'll take 1 minute and give you the solution, and then I will leave it to you to ask these. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So the solution is the following. You see, there are 442 crore patis in the current Lok Sabha. Do you think forsaking 10,000 rupees matters to them? Absolutely not. So the solution is the following. Any MP who rushes to the well is docked 120 days from his or her 5-year term. All right. That is what matters to them. You reduce their 5-year term to 4 years, 3 years, and they'll be worried because they'll have that much less time to loot their constituency. So what happens is 3 times you rush into the well, you disrupt, you tear off papers, you're docked about 300 days, 400 days, things like that. And then you will have only 3 years of your 5-year term left. And they will fall in line like 9 pins, believe it or not. So I want the parliamentarians who are there on your panel to actually tell us what do they think about this solution.
Right. No, I will pose this question, but while I agree with on most things that you say, I vehemently disagree with you there, and I will give my reasons when I'm going to discuss the whole observing of fast by both the Congress and the BJP. And with all due respect to the MPs, yes, they shouldn't be rushing into the wells, but I think to tell them that they're going to lose their elected hours is also doing disservice to the electorate there. But I take your point, and I get the angst on which that point is really built. But Sanjeev Srivastava, coming to you. Are parliamentarians to be blamed? I mean, look at how Parliament is functioning now. Are parliamentarians to be blamed of reducing parliamentary form of democracy and slowly moving it to the presidential form of democracy? I mean, where is the check on executive? We can have the Congress and the BJP debate and say that one is to be blamed, we were in the opposition, this happened. But where is the check on the executive? And who is to be blamed but the parliamentarians themselves?
You're absolutely right. You know, I've been listening to what GVL said, then Mr. Yagnik, then of course Ghanshyam Tiwari and Anand. And what I really think, what the one point in addition which I would like to really make is that the one point we are perhaps missing is that how vicious and divisive the polity has become today. Yes, one had disruptions even during UPA. Yes, the BJP perfected the art of disrupting parliament and said that it is, like you said in your introduction, quoting Mr. Jaitley, that, you know, it's a form of protest. But in this government, perhaps, this is the first time, even during UPA tenure, when the parliament was not functioning, the BJP was opposing everything tooth and nail, there was real sense of camaraderie when the opposition and the governing party leaders met in the house or outside. And you could almost feel that the thing they were doing inside the house was actually some kind of a political game being played out. Now, the communication channels have absolutely broken down. There is so much of, I didn't want to use that word, but there is almost some kind of visceral, if not hatred, dislike that one can see seeping through the body politic, especially between the governing party and opposition Congress party. So that is the most unfortunate thing. And with Mr. Jaitley down, not coming to the parliament last 10 days or so, and Sushma Swaraj not playing the role that she once used to in Indian politics, you suddenly find that it is just, you know, like in everything else, it's a two-horse race in the government. It's the Prime Minister and the party president. And they don't seem to care very much about whether the parliament is functioning or not. And to be fair, the Congress is also happy with the state of affairs as they are. They can daily come out and shout and blame the government, saying AIADMK is doing this, YSR Congress is doing that. So it's the sheer breakdown of communications, and it is the sheer dislike, again, because I don't want to say hatred, which one is seeing seeping through the body polity today.
From what you said, and that's really directing me to my next questions. And just before I go, I observed something in social media today, and you know, I want to say this to our audience because they should know what's really happening in our polity. You talk about visceral hate, and you know, we all pray, and we are all praying collectively that Mr. Jaitley does recover very fast and resumes his duties. You know, at ET now, we certainly want him back in the pink of health, really. You had opposition leaders tweet. P. Chidambaram tweeted earlier today, wishing him best of health. And then you had to see the reactions on social media. They were so vile and so angry and just so sarcastic that it makes you think, where are the common courtesies? Is there room for common courtesy? Is there room for any sort of dialogue between the two sides? It does make you think that. But anyways, that's an observation. GVL Narasimha Rao, I'm going to come to you, and you know, because you represent the ruling benches, and like I said, the freshly minted MP, you have to answer some tough questions. A lot of people are raising questions on the role of the Speaker and how the House has been conducted in the Lok Sabha. You've got a brute majority there. But if you see instances of how the House was adjourned by Ms. Mahajan, you actually see twice in 1 minute, 4 times in 2 minutes, and twice in 3 minutes. Are you telling me the Speaker could not have restored order of the House, could not have taken up the no confidence motion, which actually takes precedence over every other business?
I think before I answer your question, let me contradict, let me say what the Congress spokesperson and MP Ammiben Yagnik said is completely at variance with reality. And I am surprised that journalists are also not really looking at the facts and merely examining, merely conducting debates, taking into account that the parliament did not function. Let's look at the factors that really led to the parliamentary disruption. On 5th March, this parliament convened, the second session or the second half of the budget session convened on the 5th of March. The Congress party gave a notice under Rule 193. Congress party said, in fact, it is the tradition to take up the finance bill in the second part of the budget session on top priority, because it's a constitutional requirement to get the finance bill passed, to get the appropriations bill passed. But the Congress said, no, we want you to suspend all this. We want you to take up discussion on the banking fraud. Under rule number 193, this submission was given by the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, the party's whip, Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia and Venugopal. And the speaker agreed to have a discussion. The government also agreed to postpone the finance bill to have a discussion on the topic that is of interest to this country, and the topic that the opposition wanted to discuss. But then thereafter, what happened? The same party came back to the speaker and said, no, we don't want a discussion under this rule. We want to change the rule because we don't think this rule is appropriate. So how can you? This is not a child play. You come up with a proposal for a discussion. The speaker agrees to it. Then you go back on this for political reasons because you want to disrupt the house. So you have pre-decided that you do not want the parliament to function. And from 5th of March till 15th of March, it was the Congress members who were in the well, who did not want any discussion to happen. So you are actually trying to exhibit your political intolerance, your political defeats outside the house. You want to really make the people suffer for your political defeat. I think this is what the people of the country will infer from this kind of attitude. And although it is the opposition which has actually blocked the parliamentary functioning, it is our MPs who are we are foregoing the salary and the allowances. And I want the opposition to come forward and take the same cut and tell the people of this country they would not indulge in this kind of drama.
GVL Narasimha Rao, I have a very simple question for you, but I'm going to put it across to Anand Ranganathan at this point in time. It's very good that you're taking the high moral ground and you're going to forego salary. You are also going to observe a fast, which I will talk next. You are foregoing salary, but just for the benefit of our viewers, I want to point out the figures. It takes 2.5 lakh rupees to run the parliament for every 1 minute. For every day the parliament functions, bring up graphics on the screen so that our viewers understand what we are talking about. It takes 9 crore rupees. 9 crore rupees for the parliament to function. And, you know, foregoing salaries for 23 days pales in comparison is really what I'm saying. You know, I really think that we've brought it all down to this high decibel, high drama. You know, the Congress is saying they will observe a fast. You are saying you will observe a fast and forego a salary. What does all of this amount to? At one level, I feel that, you know, both you and the Congress don't seem to realize that the Indian electorate is perhaps a lot sharper, a lot smarter than you give us credit for. Anyways, Anand Ranganathan, I want to bring up this point. You know, it is semantics to say we will let go of and forego our salaries. It takes 2.5 lakh rupees to run parliament for every 1 minute. Look at the amount that has been wasted. Who's going to be responsible for the taxpayers' money Supriya, that has gone down the drain? What is this paltry salary that we are talking about? Anand Ranganathan.
What substantial? Yeah, Supriya, thanks very much. So you're absolutely right. And let me also say that some have estimated that if the government were to run all 3 sessions in 1 year, it would cost, I think, somewhere around 540 crore rupees. Now, just imagine that much of money is being shared, just completely wasted. And, I'm sorry, Mr. GVL Rao, again, at the risk of upsetting you, what you're doing right now is essentially what the Congress spokesperson or the SP spokesperson is doing. You're not giving us a solution. The solution, the bare fact is the following. That, and again, Supriya, you raised the question of the speaker. Now, let me say, we Indians are strange people. We just don't get this phrase, the conflict of interest. Conflict, yes. Interest, yes. But not been separated by a proposition. So, here is what I suggest. You dock the MP's days from their terms, okay, but the speaker has to be a retired Supreme Court judge, because there is a clear conflict of interest. I mean, I'm sorry to say, yes, of course, they say that when a person, an MP becomes a speaker, he actually forsakes the allegiance to the party. But sorry, can I just finish? Can I please finish, please? Yeah, I'll just take another 30 seconds. The point is, with due respect to Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, who's our Vice President, he is now the Speaker of the Rajya Sabha. He was the one who said MODI, Modi means maker of developed India. Now, it's very hard for me as an outsider to accept that he will be absolutely impartial. Why not have a retired or Supreme Court Justice or Chief Justice of India as a Speaker, and then let him decide if a Speaker, if an MP rushes to the well, disrupts, brings grenade, throws mics, then you're docked 120 days for that one misdemeanor, and a year of your duration of 5 years. What's wrong with that? Mr. Rao, can you please answer, instead of forsaking salary, what is wrong in you being docked the number of days from your 5-year term? I want an answer, please, if you don't mind.
Right. Anand Ranganathan, you've made your point there. I want to go to Ms. Amiben Yagnik. And Ms. Amiben Yagnik, while we are all questioning and attacking GVL Narasimha Rao for the, the high semantics that he's talking about foregoing salaries, what is Congress Party's stance? You want to observe a nationwide fast on the 12th of April in lieu of what has happened, in lieu of the bonhomie that has been destroyed, what happened in the SC/ST Act amendment protests and all of that. Aren't those exactly the issues that you need to discuss on the floor of the House? I mean, we are undermining Parliament. We are willing to fast outside, both you and the BJP. How different are you from the Treasury benches then? How different is this decibel and this drama from what the BJP is doing about foregoing salaries?
I think after hearing on any debate, of course, the BJP always puts the blame on the Congress party. But let us be very objective and think on these lines that what is wrong if the governing party or the BJP or when the Honorable Prime Minister is sitting in the Parliament do not follow this rigidity and just go for debates and healthy discussions rather than going for some kind of procedures and being so rigid as to not go for debates. When we have a bank scam which is writ large on the face of India, which is involving thousands of crores of rupees of nationalized banks and of people here, why is there not a discussion on this? When a certain party is asking for a special status, why is the BJP or the governing party not answering anything? Why is the speaker, when the speaker is having all the powers, why is the speaker not exercising those powers? Why do we need to have a new set of solutions? Why do we need to have new set of suggestions when there are already existing rules? And why have so much rigidity by the BJP? It is a parliamentary democracy. I think the BJP should understand it is not an autocracy. It is not that exclusive mandate that you are required to exercise in India. You have to see that there is a healthy debate. You have to hear the constructive, the opposition who is constructively asking for a proper behavior in the Parliament, a proper dialogue, a proper consensus, because we are all working for the people of this nation. I think it should not be a blame game, and I think BJP should come out of this mode that they are the sole kind of people who have got a huge mandate and they can have their way and they can go on explaining their role rather and not and ignoring what they have done for the last 10 years.
Okay, okay. I get your point there. I want to take it across to Ghanshyam Tiwari. And Ghanshyam Tiwari, put your hand on your heart and tell me that while the Parliament has been, one second, I'll come to you. While the Parliament has been in session, is it not true also it works for politicians across the spectrum for Parliament to not function, for houses to adjourn every day, because that gives people the time to tour, to electioneer, to campaign, to have these rallies. When Parliament was functioning the way it was previously, people would say, house chal raha hai, can't go out of Delhi. Today, nobody is in Delhi. The ministers are not in Delhi. The MPs are not in Delhi. Everybody is electioneering, and that's across the political spectrum. It works to the advantage of political parties, it seems. Ghanshyam Tiwari?
Well, let's make it very clear that the key questions of this debates have not been answered by the BJP so far. One was why was AIDMK in the well, and why is AIDMK acting like an unofficial ally of BJP? BJP has no answer. I think
you have to give me time, otherwise I think this will remain unanswered.
I think that itself is a wrong approach. There are two approaches I want to call out as wrong approach. One is foregoing salary is a wrong approach, and second, saying that it benefits political parties is a wrong approach. Hamid Ansari committee wanted the parliament to function for 110 days. The cost of missed out agenda of the nation is far more bigger than any paltry salary loss here or there. But when the government of the day comes up with a plot that we will not allow parliament to function because we can sabotage using a fake opposition, then what would you do? The speaker has all the powers. AIDMK is in discussion. When the cabinet was being expanded last year, there were press reports that AIDMK would join the cabinet. TDP, which was elected on the same mandate that BJP got elected, on a promise that BJP and TDP made to people of Andhra Pradesh. This is all their agenda. They decided to block the parliament on their agenda that they failed to fulfill, but they did not want that discussion to happen, because when a no confidence motion comes, then every party will ask questions from the BJP manifesto that what happened to the promises. And you tell me, if BJP was so serious, Prime Minister is the most esteemed member of the House. Okay. How many days in the past 1 month did you see the Prime Minister go to the House? If the Prime Minister is visible in the House for 3 or 4 photo ops and then becomes invisible, but is visible in exam warriors, is visible in
but Ghanshyam Tiwari,
you can establish the seriousness of BJP by the presence of the Prime Minister.
Okay. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, the same argument can be held, but the same argument holds for the opposition members as well. How many days is Rahul Gandhi spent in the House instead of electioneering? I will give a quick word to Ghanshyam, to GVL Narasimha Rao before I go across to Sanjeev Srivastava on a very important subject that I want to discuss. But I think GVL has a point of view there, and GVL quickly come in.
You see, I think one shameful incident that has happened in this session, which has gone unnoticed, and one of the panelists also mentioned some other incidents, but not this one. The tradition has been ever since independence that when the Prime Minister rises to speak in either House of Parliament, everyone defers to the Prime Minister. But here, what happened? When the Prime Minister was speaking on the motion of thanks to the address of the Honorable President of India, you had the Congress members raising slogans, not letting him complete his speech. I think there cannot be anything more shameful than this. You did not even allow Prime Minister to speak when he was only thanking, when he was speaking on the motion of thanks to the President. Such is your conviction in parliamentary democracy. And now coming to the question of the opposition, I think Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari wants to give certificates as to which is a genuine opposition, which is fake opposition. Nobody is interested in your certificates. You were considered a mole. Mulayam Singh Yadav also was considered, Samajwadi Party also was reported as a mole of the BJP or the Congress in the last 20 years. Would you accept that?
You're not responding to the question.
Would you accept that certificate that Mulayam Singh Yadav and
one second.
It's a retort, it's not a response. You have not
responded. Stop giving certificates to political parties.
1 second.
Be it the TDP, the Congress,
GVL Narasimha Rao and Ghanshyam Tiwari, I'm sorry, I will have to overtake this debate. I can't have both of you mudslinging at each other. No, GVL Narasimha Rao, I get your point there.
To them. It is the Congress party which has led the protest in the House.
No. GVL, you've made your point there. I'm sorry, I'll have to come in there. I think the question really was that why is AIADMK in the well and the speaker can't get 50 MPs? That's an issue that I wanted to discuss. I don't have the time and I don't want to waste time because there's something more important I want to speak to Sanjeev Srivastava about. And Sanjeev Srivastava, I want to throw some numbers to our audience and then come to you for a question. In the previous Lok Sabha, there were about 71% bills referred to committees. In the Lok Sabha before that, which was the 14th Lok Sabha, 60% of the bills were referred to committees. And in this Lok Sabha, we've just seen 27% bills being referred. Bills like the NJAC, which is the Judicial Appointment Committee, IBC, Aadhaar, Atomic Energy Amendment, Citizenship Amendment Act, Collection of Statistics Committees, these have all passed without going to committees. Has parliamentary democracy lost a sense of how important these standing committees are? I mean, it's a bipartisan view that shapes up there. You've got members across party lines, members from both houses who sit and discuss the issues. They give their wisdom. That's all been forgotten. I mean, isn't that accumulation of wisdom important to our legislation? Because today we are at the risk of legislation being very shallow.
True. Though you forgot to mention one of the bills which was referred to a committee, which I think was heavily politically loaded, though very correct bill, the triple talaq bill, which has gone to a committee. But again, it's a function of the majority which the government enjoys. So they can actually get through a lot more legislative business done when they actually want to. In this particular session of the budget session, I am very certain nobody really wanted the parliament to function. The opposition Congress party wanted it to function on its own terms, that you discuss Nirav Modi, you discuss the no confidence, and the ruling party was just not interested. Even in one of the headlines when you started this program, Supriya, I'll come back to my point, is that when you mentioned what Amit Shah has referred to as opposition parties like cats, snakes and dogs, or whatever name calling he has done, it again boils down to the kind of bitterness which has seeped into body politic. So yes, I completely agree with GVL. The Prime Minister should not have been heckled. Some traditions need to be preserved and maintained. But in a system where all traditions are being shown the door and being brushed under the carpet and being paid no respect, then perhaps no tradition remains sacrosanct. One should be thankful that at least the president was heard in some silence, that at least people go out when, or the house stands adjourned when the speaker says that the house is adjourned. So one wonders whether even that kind of decorum will be maintained in the days to come. It is the sheer complete opposition versus governing party mentality which has come in. So one heard of all party meetings so many times, where is Mr. Anant Kumar? And Anant Kumar really doesn't have the kind of stature in this government like a Ghulam Nabi Azad had in the UPA. They used to reach out. So in this case, it is the Prime Minister's job, or he has to delegate somebody like a Mr. Jaitley or somebody truly senior, Amit Shah now that he's an MP, that they have to reach out. And at the end of the day, you can play the blame game endlessly, but it's the government's job to make sure that the House runs, that the Parliament runs, because they are the ones who have been elected by the people of India with such a majority on this occasion. So they need to be more responsible. They can't run away from their responsibility by saying, okay, they are not doing this, they are not doing this. They have to run the show, and they run it, and they need to run it well.
You really hit the nail on its head when you say these backroom channels of negotiations, the kind of meetings that happened over tea.
Even the backroom channels of negotiations have broken down into backroom bickerings. Even backroom, they can't stand each other very properly. So, except for the odd MPs who go back some distance in time and who are friendly to each other, it is you just have to see the body language between the governing and opposition party now, especially Congress and BJP. I'm sorry, it's very strange, and it's something to be bothered about.
Exactly. I was just going to say that this acrimony doesn't bode well for parliamentary democracy. There was a time when Parliament would discuss, debate, diss each other and come out and shake hands and perhaps be friends. That doesn't happen. I've been going to Parliament now for about 15 odd years. I don't see people wishing each other now. Ministers from this government and MPs from Congress cross each other. They don't acknowledge, they don't wish each other. To my mind, I think that's a huge change that I've seen in this session of Parliament and also in this Lok Sabha and the 16th Lok Sabha. That's a huge change that I've seen. But to talk about political differences, I want to say political differences set aside, but when it suits the opposition and the government, they can get together. As far as the finance bill is concerned, it gives me a lot of pain that it was passed without any discussion. In 25 minutes, you passed a bill that's going to determine how 90 lakh crore worth of money is going to be spent in fiscal year 19. That was done in 25 minutes without a discussion. But both parties were absolutely on board because it went back and retrospectively changed foreign funding That's political opportunism, is it not, Anand Ranganathan?
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the question, my simple straight question to Ms. Yagnik, who's the Congress spokesperson. Just one single sentence question, Ms. Yagnik. Why did the Congress not protest when the BJP or the government retrospectively changed the FCRA bill, act? Can you just give me a straight answer?
No, from
that
the beginning
question,
we
then
have
why
been
did the Congress not question?
Discussion.
Why is it that...
This is not the only bill that yes, that, no, No, this is not the only bill. There are several other bills along with this that have been passed, and we have been asking for debate and discussions. I think you are not
Why
looking
did you
at the
not
conduct
question
of the
this
governing
FCRA
party
amendment
and the ruling party which is there. You can't ask us. No, we have been questioning, and there is no answer.
If you don't have the answer,
that is why there has been this kind of a continuous asking by the Congress party.
I'll tell you the answer, Ms. Yagnik. It is because you were convicted along with the BJP by the High Court, and the High Court gave the central government 6 months to come up with punitive punishment for both your parties. And within that 6 months, what happens? The government retrospectively changes the FCRA Act. That is why you were quiet, Ms. Yagnik. Own up, please. You stand for us.
Right.
Own up.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll have to come in there, Anand Ranganathan and Ms. Yagnik, but I'll have to take quick closing comments from all my panelists. And GVL Narasimha Rao, I'll begin with you. Looking at the fate of the second half of the budget session, people are worried. What will happen to the next monsoon session? What will happen to the winter session? Because we are going to move in the thick of elections. It's going to be Karnataka right now. It's going to be the other state assembly elections. And then, of course, the big battle of 2019. People are worried that is the Lok Sabha functioning, is the Rajya Sabha functioning in this entire tenure can be written off?
No, Supriya, I think this has been a very forgettable session, but the last year's budget session and the last 4 years overall, if you look at the entire tenure, I think Parliament has functioned rather well. And very, very historic bills have been passed, like GST became a reality during the tenure of this government. But certainly the next few sessions, we hope things will really normalize. That is what the presiding officers in both the houses have expressed. And nothing works in a democracy than the public pressure. I think it's the public opinion that really weighs heavily on every political party, and therefore it is important that we debate it on television, we write about it in the media. As political workers, we go to the people. When we sit on a fast, we will explain to the people how this is anti-democratic, how this is anti-people, and certainly pressure from the people, pressure from below is what works on political parties, and they will have no option but to come back to the house and transact business, because they know not doing it can really hurt them politically. I think nothing in a democracy works better than this. I think no punishment is worse than a punishment from the people themselves.
Right. Okay, Miss Yagnik, I will ask you to take just 30 seconds and answer my question. The BJP, for all practical purposes, believes its political equity is out of Parliament, is using it there. You believe your political opportunism is out of Parliament. Will that change in the next 2 winter and monsoon sessions? Or are we going to see things worsening, actually?
I think the BJP will have to give up its rigidity. It will have to understand the parliamentary democracy procedures and principles, and I think they should just take into consideration the role of the opposition, and that is how I think we hope that the next session would be productive.
Okay, thanks very much for that very cryptic reply. I gave you 30 seconds. I think you wrapped up before that. But thank you very, very much for this expert panel. We covered a gamut of things. The idea is to really put solutions out there, to throw statistics at our viewers and make them understand why functioning of Parliament is important. Parliament is supreme. That's the supreme legislative authority, makes laws for all of us, keeps a check on executive. And if it's not going to do that, then parliamentary democracy undermines itself. But on that note, completely out of time, thanks very much Sandeep Srivastava, Anand Ranganathan, Ghanshyam Tiwari, Ms. Amiben Yagnik, and of course GVL Narasimha Rao for being with us. We do hope that the 2 freshly minted MPs will find more productive hours in Parliament so that they can make the laws that India truly deserves. Thank you very much for being with us right here on ET Now. Plenty of programming, special news continues. Keep it with the channel.